Welcome back to another episode of Penji Podcast, where we talk about marketing, advertising, and all things related to your business. And today's guest is none other than Jonathan, my co-founder at Penji. Essentially, we are a creative tech startup that powers and enhances some of the world's top brands. So let's get started with today's topic. Jonathan, I have a question for you. What is happening in the world today that you feel like every single agency and marketer should be aware of?
Well, I think right now we're currently in the AI bubble, where AI is a very significantly fun, exciting thing to talk about and discuss. However, a very strong inclination that bubble is going to burst at some point in time and put us in a trend where the level of importance of humans is going to be very prevalent in the next couple of years. AI obviously is taking over, as you would read on social media, but for the most part, again, I think it's just a bubble. I think it's just something that it's really sexy to talk about now. It's really cool to highlight on social media because it's easy to create things on social media. But I do believe eventually that bubble will burst. But how about yourself?
I like the word you said, which was bubble, and I couldn't agree more with that because NFTs. Does anyone remember NFTs?
Unfortunately,
remember how wasn't that such a big deal? Wasn't that such a big bubble? What was it last year? NFTs, crypto, blockchain. What is that? The monkey NFT. Like what happened to all that, right? And so like you said, I think a lot of it really is a bubble where we're always in the tech world. We're always looking for something new, something trending, and something that is game changing. And people are always looking for the next bubble to just dive themselves into.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this the other day. I think our generation specifically, every Christmas that happened, we always had something new that was coming out. For example, there was the PlayStation, and there was PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3, and then, all the other gaming systems. And so during Christmas time, we had this level of anticipation of something new was happening that we all had to jump on it. And I think as our generation is getting older, having children, we need to find new ways to fulfill that level of like instant gratification. And because we as people, we as a middle-ish, young-ish age, individuals, we can't spend the time to play games anymore, or we can't spend the time to be fixated on that new thing. And so we need to translate that over to technology, because that's where it's headed, right? We have our phones, we have our iPads or laptops, etc. We need to fill that void and that gap in our lives, and we're doing that through, technology or whatever is cool on social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think as with any bubble or major tech change, there's always the expectation that is going to change our lives as it exists today. It's really not always the case. I mean, we hear this almost every other year where, hey, this big thing is going to disrupt whatever. I think the last time we saw a major tech disruption was really, I guess you could say Airbnb/Uber, that really changed the way that we navigate cities and actually made living and navigating cities much more accessible, even visiting cities, far more accessible than it was previously. AI, kind of interesting because I'm sure everyone's already familiar with OpenAI, the company that's behind DALL-E, ChatGPT. I don't know which version they're on right now, but AI is making some pretty major headlines lately. And people are doing very interesting things with AI. In the last episode, we actually cover quite a bit, so I don't want to dance all over that again. But so, John, from your perspective, do you feel like AI is going to stay, or do you feel like it's also a bubble that's going to pop next year?
I think the people and the companies that are able to have that perfect balance of AI and humans will ultimately prevail out of all this. Now that's when it comes to business. Now when it comes to personal, I think that it can actually be even more integrated, because I was reading an article the other day about how this firm gave, or maybe it was a gentleman, gave, I think it was like a couple $1,000s to ChatGPT to find a way to create like a 10x on his returns through the stock market. And they were able to actually navigate the stock market better than analysts were able to. So I think that from like a personal standpoint, I think there might be more longevity for like an individual, right? Like me as a human being can use AI to help me with like writing an email, or maybe even social media posts and things like that. But I think when it comes to the world of business, it's not going to have as much of a longevity unless there's businesses that are able to integrate not only humans, but also the AI that it's using.
That's a great point you brought up, John. And I want us to dive a bit deeper into talking about the secrets behind some of the most successful brands, how they're navigating the world of AI, and also how they are able to distinguish themselves. Because with the emergence of, the internet, technology, everything that's around us right now, it's becoming easier and easier for just about anybody to create their own company, their own agency, whatnot. So how are successful companies and brands distinguishing themselves in a world that is becoming exponentially, increasingly more competitive?
When I watch a YouTube video, one of the first advertisements that I see is how I can turn $10,000 into $100,000. Or
I see those every day.
yeah, they suck. The other ones are like, you're a digital marketing agency and you're doing this wrong, and here are the 10 tips that in order to do that. The entrepreneurs are always going to be in that world where they think that type of content is sexy. When it comes to larger organizations, then when not to kind of toot our own horn, but organizations like, Penji, there's a level of authenticity there that needs to be upheld. And that starts from the top as leaders, and then it trickles its way down all the way to the people that are purchasing the service. So I would say trust and authenticity are the two secret ingredients that must be had within all brands and organizations. And I can give you even a step further. Apple, right? Apple is probably the most famous company and also the most profitable, powerful company of all time. The minute that they release an ad, you know that they give a crap about how quality their products are. Sure, it might break, but it's always going to be built of quality, and that's the level of trust that is being upheld. But in addition to that, the authenticity is their level of inclusion within all of their advertisements is just world class. They pay specific attention to people who are deaf, or people who are autistic, or people who have other challenges in life that are thrown about them. And if a company can find whatever their secret sauce is that allows them to be authentic, that company should invest every single ounce of their revenue in order to allow others to believe that level of authenticity.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. I want to add more to that. For a company to be highly, highly successful, I feel like it comes down to several key factors. Number one is you have to solve a problem that enough people have and enough people are willing to pay for. That's just the starting point. If you're not doing that, you're not going to be successful at all. So first, solve a problem that enough people are willing to pay for. Number two is setting the right expectation that people talk about that makes you remarkable and makes it worthwhile to talk about you. And that's when it goes from one person knowing your brand to that person sharing, and now you have 10 other people who knows about your brand. And that's how you build a billion-dollar company. Just exceed your customers' expectations by just a little bit, but do it every time. Graphic design, do you feel like that is something that's still relevant? Is that, in the age of AI and we have Canva, we have so many different tools. Is graphic design something that is relevant in today's world for a growing business?
Obviously, selfishly speaking, I would say yes, of course, but I would say my answer is going to be a little bit biased.
Obligated under law, right?
Yeah. Any type of good graphic design will allow the person to feel a level of trust, whether that information is incorrect or correct. If you've ever said the word or the phrase, I read an article, or I saw on social media, or whatever it may be, there's a very strong chance that it was done in a way that it was trustworthy, that you believed it. So I would say that if that's true in most cases, then it'll also be true in the world of business. And the only way to do that is to be able to find reliable graphic design talent that's going to deliver consistent quality work for your business, whether that be through a company like Penji or whether that be through a freelance network of some kind. Obviously, there's benefits and cons to all of those options, but as long as that individual or that company is able to deliver consistency and quality, then I think you should invest heavily in those types of services.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And to add a bit more spice to that, I feel like because obviously we have to toot our own horn, right? We run a creative service. Graphic design really is the secret sauce or the magical, you know the movie Space Jam?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
secret
yeah.
sauce, the
Yeah,
water.
the water, right? In Space Jam, towards the very end, when Michael Jordan and the of Bugs Bunny and I guess the Looney Tunes gang, when they realize, you know what, we can't fight against them anymore. These are the big guys. We have to do something special, right? So who was it? Was it Bugs Bunny was the one, right?
Yeah, he
Okay,
started it.
yeah. In short, they got a little bottle, a bottle, right? And he just put water in it, but he labeled it Michael's secret stuff to get everyone to believe that if you drink this, you're gonna be as good as Michael. And that's how they were able to somehow muster up this invisible strength that allows them to play a pretty good game against the aliens.
The Monstars.
The Monstars, yeah. And so I feel like graphic design is kind of like that secret sauce, where it's inaccurate to say that graphic design will make you successful. That's not true. That's completely not true. But one thing is very evident is look at some of the most successful brands. What do they all have in common? Do you know a single one that isn't well presented, well branded? None, right? It's almost impossible to find. But when you go online, you go to one website versus a smaller competitor's website, there is something invisible about their design that you just know that this right here is the bigger brand.
Yeah.
And it's not the font, it's not the colors, it's a combination of a lot of things. You don't know what it is, but you know that this is the bigger brand. And that's the secret stuff. So graphic design, when used properly, can give your brand that invisible push, that invisible propulsion to have that big brand appearance, even if you don't have the budget or the big buildings or whatever that big brands do. So smaller companies, if you want to compete, graphic design is the easiest and most affordable thing you can actually invest in.
I think the key differentiation is custom graphics, right? Or custom illustrations. That is the difference between a larger company that understands and appreciates creativity. If you're seeing something, right, whether it be an ad or whether it be a social media post or whatever it may be, that graphic was made specifically for that one purpose. It wasn't necessarily half-assed. It wasn't done last minute. It was done weeks and maybe even months in advance for that specific purpose to express that specific thing. And when you see that, you hold on to it and you know that it was custom, and your level of care and trust increases once you're able to see that. I'll give you another example if that's okay. But I was on Twitter the other day, and you could always tell when there's like a social media post that was made by ChatGPT, because it's like, I did all the research so you didn't have to. Here are 10 reasons why. And I actually saw one that was specific about graphic design. And it was talking about how graphic design and AI, graphic designers are going to be obsolete. And so I started looking at the post, and they basically went out and they said, here's the logo that I created. And the logo was so garbage. And you could tell that it wasn't done by a professional graphic designer.
Yeah, I definitely 100% agree with you there. AI is such a weird black box right now. That's how I feel about AI, where there's so much potential for AI. But similar to many innovations that came before AI, there is something special about something that is created by a person. And a person is able to give whatever item that is being created a level of meaning that AI can't do. Now, I'll give you an example, a wallet. You can walk into any mall nowadays, you can go any Target, you can buy any wallet. and it will look just as good as any wallet that was ever made by any person. But would you agree that a wallet that was hand-stitched, handmade by, who knows, some cobbler from 1950 that somebody's grandfather wore through World War II has a substantial level of meaning and significance to it? Okay, maybe the war part gives it too much meaning, but the point is, a handmade wallet has a different significance than something that was made in a factory. And in a sense, that's what AI is. It enables us to produce things at scale faster, in some respect better in terms of accuracy. But as far as meaning, it's the imperfection that gives it meaning. A piece of graphic that was created by an artist has a special meaning, which other humans can relate to and can understand. You look at the Mona Lisa, and you look at an AI drawing of something like the Mona Lisa, they're not the same. You look at the Mona Lisa, you know there's meaning behind this. Behind every single brushstroke, there was intention, there was purpose, and there was something special about it. Meanwhile, something by AI, it may look visually appealing, but it lacks that conversation. It lacks that deeper character. It's no different than dating. There is a world of difference between somebody who looks visually stunning and somebody who captivates your soul when they talk to you. They're not the same thing.
I would agree.
Yeah. Go to Penji.co today or .com, either one, and sign up. And our subscription starts at $499 a month, and you get everything from project manager, illustrator, designers, UX, UI. It's been a game changer for a lot of agencies. So give us a try. Sounds good. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.